Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check. Might call it Snorlax Check today, but it is brought to you by Because Bitcoin BB. A reminder, as always, guys, there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about these markets. As I'm sure you guys are aware, I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I am joined above me by Snorlax and below me by Tommy. But fear not, guys, we are going to have a great show even still. The fact that you have just me today, you know what that means, guys? It means you basically get to ask me to look at whatever you want, and I'll do it. I'll probably do it unless you don't hit the like button, of course. Then I will probably beg you, maybe even get down on my knees and pray that you hit the like button, but maybe not. I might just put the soybeans chart up, but either way, guys, you are stuck with me yapping for for the next hour. So yeah, fire all your questions at me. I'd love to answer them. I'm going to talk about, of course, all things markets as well. You'll definitely kind of have a good idea of how I'm personally thinking about Bitcoin, ETH, and everything else right now. But to kind of set the stage for the show, right? Because I did title it, right? Like, what is Bitcoin's next move? You know, this is essentially the battle at the Berlin Wall, as I feel appropriately been using the term 58K, 59K, whatever level specifically you want to use to kind of represent that de facto level that bulls have to flip to turn the lights back on. I'm going to talk about why exactly that is, but it is still, right? Like, these are levels that are very important to Bitcoin. It's not one of those things where level to level, me matey. 1K above here, we're going 1K higher. 1K below here, we're going 1K lower. I will give you guys a lot more detail and hopefully more, you know, kind of, again, how I'm viewing what I kind of think will happen if we lose or keep some of these levels, right? But yeah, I would say the obvious theme of the morning, though, even despite kind of Bitcoin's weakness, is the fact that you have altcoins and ETH showing tremendous amounts of strength within this market. I do not think that should be lost, right? Like, if Bitcoin flips the Berlin Wall, obviously these altcoins are going to thrive. I'm going to tell you which ones are probably going to do the best if that happens. I'm also going to tell you which altcoins will probably do the worst if we lose the Berlin Wall, which, as you can see, I have highlighted in green. Some call it ping pong. We call it horizontal rays, right? That's what us traders do. But yeah, I do want to talk about alts, right? Like, because you have VC scams that have actually beginning to catch a bid. Some meme coins catching a bid. There's a lot of kind of dispersion within the meme coin market. You have things on Solana looking really good, but at the same time, you kind of like, I mean, Popcat, for example, Billy. I haven't looked at Michi. It might look good, it might not. But then you look across the board at other meme coins, right? Like Pepe and Whiff, and those are looking a lot weaker. So there is a bit of dispersion in meme coins, of course, in VC scams. It's really kind of the story of this entire bullish cycle, though. I mean, we've never had every altcoin pumping at the same time. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And of course, guys, I'm also going to be talking about equities today. So if you have equity tickers that you want me to look at, maybe you want me to look at like the NASDAQ, the S&P, HOOD, I will do it. Just drop it in the comments. All I ask is that if you drop a suggestion for me to look at, that you hit the like button. But I'm gonna do my best to cook for you, right? And I'm gonna be waffling back and forth between the chart and, of course, the comments. But let's see if you guys are hitting the like button or if you guys are just angry that it's me today. I think there's a little bit of both, right? There's definitely some anger that it's just me today, but the people who did not want to tune in are going to miss a delicious meal. So the joke's on them. But I see we got Tucker in here as well. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Everybody hit the like button for Tommy holding it down today. But yeah, we should be getting Max back later this week. I think he is traveling today, actually. Tucker's still on his honeymoon. We got some really exciting stuff happening in the BB team right now in real life. I mean, I don't want to like air everybody's personal life, but just some very exciting and wholesome, very wholesome family developments occurring within our squad. So I love to see that, man. I really do. Love to see the team winning in markets and outside of it. But all right, guys, let's get into some of these charts. I will give you my full view on Bitcoin. I'm also gonna give you kind of my thoughts on the derivatives as well, because I mean that's really more my my cup of tea, right? We were talking about this with Jackus yesterday, the importance of this weekly level, and maybe my lines are a little too thick, so it might be a little hard to see, but I felt like I needed to emphasize the Berlin and the Bullen wall. So right now I've got the Bullen wall sitting right here. I have it as an important level contextually, right? It's the top of the first standard deviation of the 2021 yearly VWAP. And of course, you also have all of this weekly, and I would imagine monthly as well, supply and demand level right here. It's currently demand. If you lose it, it's supply. But this is the last level I can really see you catching support. I don't really view this structure as that much support. This, I mean, it kind of is, but it's more likely if you come down here, you're probably gonna like trade more down into here. But I guess we have highlighted the red box for kind of what we're expecting for Bitcoin in that regard. So this is a big level, man. I mean, this is a massive, massive level. I can't even understate how big of a level this is on a higher time frame for Bitcoin, guys. Like if you lose it, you're probably coming to the red box. And if you reclaim the Berlin wall, I would even say this OI inefficiency that we have up here, and I'll explain what that means here in just a second. Then I think if you flip these levels, then you are looking at, I would say, a repeat of this range down here with Bitcoin. And we've seen people talk about this. There are, of course, similarities to this range with Bitcoin and ETH. I would say this is a fractal I've seen on my timeline a lot. I've seen two fractals all over my timeline lately. This is one of them, with ETH being, the exact same fractal as Bitcoin before the ETF. Does it play? I don't know. But if ETH chops sideways here, obviously we know what to expect. I don't know that it's quite the same, but right, like if it does begin to telegraph that pattern, then obviously we have to respect it. And then I would say the other fractal that I see everybody talking about in the market, and this is an asset that I will talk about on the show, is PopCat. It's PopCat. Everybody wants PopCat to play the whiff fractal, and I guess we'll see if it does. But there's something about when fractals get too crowded about them actually playing. Most people will try to front run their fellow participants. So I would say PopCat either probably goes sooner than that, or it doesn't go at all, according to that fractal. I mean, that's just usually how it goes when it comes to patterns, right? But yeah, ETH as well, right? Berlin wall or Bullen wall. I had to say it because we are above it currently. This is the last line of defense for the noble bullas. I don't know why my computer's being a little laggy today, but yeah, this. I mean, I guess it could look better, man. I guess it could look better, but I was just trying to outline to you guys the importance of this level on a higher time frame, right? Because if you lose this level, it kind of looks to me like you're seeing selling begin to accelerate a bit. Of course, if you can flare back up, pop out above here, consolidate, you probably pop back up to the highs at least. So this is kind of what I mean when I talk about the importance of that mid time frame momentum balanced out with, if you were looking at this structure last night on Bitcoin, this slow grind, this is a good example, a good teaching moment too. You have all these stops right here, obviously, and here haven't been run, but you have this super slow grind towards the highs. What happens? Well, I mean, we were talking about it in our Discord last night. I said, even though I kind of have a bearish bias, admittedly, on crypto right now, I said, I think these local bears are probably about to be in pain. And that's what happened. They spiked it, obviously, into this yearly VWAP right here. That's our very nice black line right here. And yeah, so far we sold off back below the Berlin wall. So now it's once again, what is Bitcoin going to do here on a lower time frame? You've got this low holding, and until this low goes, realistically, you could come back up here to attack these highs. But I would say the fact that you kind of full retrace this impulsive candle isn't necessarily the best sign. But as long as you're holding this low, theoretically, you could make a move back up and fully fill this OI inefficiency. But until you break this downtrend that we can see pretty clearly visualized on this 12-hour time frame, right? Like look how clean that is with the trend EMAs. I can even throw a fancy indicator on there for you guys if you want to highlight it. Like this is the trend. We are below the trend. And if we cannot reclaim the trend, then you should, what do you think momentum is going to do? What direction does momentum have left to go? And what liquidity is immediately present below Bitcoin? Thus, I highlight the importance of holding this level. Thus, I highlight the importance. Let me look at the comments real quick. Oh, what's up, guys? All right, delicious meal. Smaller memes recovering harder because they dump more than Pepe and Whiff. That's definitely true to some degree. I think there's really kind of like people just kind of bid memes on different cycles, if that makes sense. There's a lot of capital rotation in meme coins, which I guess is fitting because there's so much PvP in the meme coin space. Do you foresee the impact of CPI tomorrow? I have no thoughts on CPI. I'll be honest with you. I have no thoughts. I was talking about this in the Discord earlier. I don't really think that there's that much impact from headlines anymore. That's true for macro events as well as what we're seeing with crypto, with ETH, where you have an ETF that's supposedly about to launch and the market hasn't really responded to it thus far. So, or at least, it has, right? We saw a ton of positioning come in obviously a few weeks ago, but locally we haven't seen quite as many. You're getting a ton of headlines about, oh yeah, Van Eck files, yada, 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 but it's not really moving price. Which I think is important to note. Let's see. I just be reading what it says under your pick. Tucker stuck his hand in the honey jar for a bit too long. I don't know what that means, but Tommy holding the fort. Yeah, I'm holding the fort, guys. We're having a good show already. I feel like we're talking about Bitcoin. I'm gonna literally get into all of your favorite tickers today. So it's gonna be a good. How am I gonna quiz you guys though? How am I gonna attack the audience without Dr. Will's outlook being present today? But yeah, I mean, I guess let's look at Bitcoin a little bit more. I guess we can look at the derivatives for it because that makes sense. We can zoom out here as well, and this is going to highlight the importance of this level too. Sorry for these ads. I only have the free version of Coinalyze. Fortunately, there will be software that you can access data like this very easily in the BB terminal coming soon. So stay tuned. But yeah, look at open interest here. Obviously very similar to price, right? I mean, it's a market that is asymmetrically skewed to the upside. So positioning usually is confluent with that. If you were to create a level of support based on open interest, you're probably looking at like right there, aren't you? So imagine that. Imagine that. Yes, we are below this low. And I would say this is actually in the bullish camp here, if it can hold, right? Because you've retraced lower than this low, but you basically just undid this open interest. So if we can hold this level, that would actually be pretty bullish. But at the same time, if you lose this level, where does open interest come down to? And that's a question I've been asking myself a little bit. I was kind of concerned when I saw, you can look up here, we put in a ton of delta up here. If you look at open interest after this candle, right after we tried to establish a new support, that's when all this open interest came in. So we had about 3 or 4 billion in OI that came in up here. So after we lost this pivot, obviously we had a big unwinding. there could be more unwinding if people are off sides enough. But I think that this as a whole, I mean, this is kind of what you want to see, but losing it would not be the best, in my opinion. When we talk about OI inefficiencies, though, what do I mean when I say that? Usually these gaps. Because I'm not sure why they get revisited. I assume just because there wasn't enough positioning that was able to come in. So you have this gap right here on this candle. I would assume like potentially we swing back up here, fill that inefficiency, and then potentially reject. I could see that. But that's something that you typically see is these gaps on open interest, they fill almost always. They won't always fill on open interest. As you can see, you know, price was a lot higher than it was, or obviously open interest was a lot higher than when price was here previously. But you will usually see price rebalance the levels that these gaps occurred on OI, as we can see here. Like we had this gap on this candle. As you can see, we've already filled it. We've rebalanced that high fully. So definitely a notable pivot, if nothing else. Moving on to ETH derivatives, because I feel like we should touch on those as well. That actually looks a lot better than Bitcoin, I have to say. This is kind of what you want to see, right? Like you need to see that hold actually. Otherwise you're going to retest this open interest down here. And that would not be enjoyable for ETH. Of course not. But I don't really feel like I have it. I don't think there's as much edge on ETH open interest this cycle because we haven't had, like, yes, we made all-time highs, but Bitcoin's open interest on CME was just so much larger than what ETH had this cycle. Like there's just so much leverage baked into the Bitcoin market. 16.5 billion still in Bitcoin OI. Which is wild, man. That's wild considering all the carnage we've already seen in altcoin markets. So I did want to highlight this though as well before I switch back to trading view is the spot CVDs. What is this, man? Who is selling? I do think this is a question worth asking. I know everybody wants to talk about the German government, but when did we learn about those guys? I would say like right here. It was probably right here. And look at the spot CVD well before that. So somebody has been distributing heavily. Somebody's been nuking the coins. And Jackus has been pointing out that that's actually probably miners nuking their holdings, taking profits, whatever it is. Maybe it's just big miners preying on little miners. But ultimately, the proof's in the pudding. Spot holders have been distributing up here, which when you look at this within the context of OI, that to me is not the most encouraging. Because if you were to just, draw that, what does that mean for OI? Is it going to follow spot CVD, or are we going to see it deviate here? And obviously spot CVD would have to form that double bottom type of round out, which could happen. That could happen. Ideally, this is somebody just absorbing people like miners and whoever else is selling within this range, because God knows that Bitcoin, everybody who has Bitcoin or is seemingly finding their Bitcoin right now. You guys remember that Adam Cochran tweet where he was like, oh yeah, I just found 25,000 SOL in a random wallet after SOL had pumped to, I think it was 70 or 80 bucks. And he's like, oh, come on, this guy really? I'm sure you did find all those coins. That's exactly what's happening with Bitcoin, man. Everybody's finding their ledger under a couch cushion. Everybody is seemingly wanting to sell at these prices. But we have not broken down yet. And I think that's important context as well. Let me go back to the comments. Yeah, guys, it is just me today. Max is flying home. Tucker's on his honeymoon. And Will and Jackus, I think we're a little busy today, so you are stuck with me. But I'm cooking you guys up a delicious meal. I have to say, we're getting some in-depth Bitcoin and Ethereum analysis today. So hit that like button for me. I would be very appreciative, since I'm just yapping up here by myself. But no, we're having a good day. I'm having a good day. At least it's beautiful outside. It's kind of hard to believe it's already Wednesday, honestly. Like some of these weeks, man, they just, when you're in markets and it's kind of like your schedule revolves around New York session. It's amazing how quickly time goes by. But curious what you think of this bull cycle prediction. My opinion on the Bitcoin bull cycle is that we are early. I can see further downside in the immediate term, and I would still believe that we're early. I kind of view this entire move as a test pump. Whether we, let me zoom out a little bit more, whether we come back down into like here, whether we bottom here, I am still bullish on a higher time frame, guys. I really think what you're seeing happen, we have this resistance up here. Clearly, there's a lot of supply present because we can't just smash through it, even on the third and fourth time attempting here. But on a higher time frame, what I kind of think would happen if we correct further will probably look something like this. And then you round out. And then when we punch through this level a fourth time, we will not stop for anything. Like you're probably just going to teleport straight to 100K with no stops. Assuming that we dip deeper, like we don't have to. We might just keep chopping in here, which we've seen all these other big tech stocks already do. So there's definitely a precedent for it to do so. But yeah, I mean, within a bull cycle for Bitcoin, we're still really early, in my opinion. I know people want to call it an echo bubble, double top, 2008 repeat, like whatever you want to call that shit, man. Like for me, I believe that we're very early to a high time frame bullish trend, and people are kind of thinking a bit too myopically as far as, oh, are we going to top in 2024 or 2025? I think we're going to top more in line with liquidity cycles, which is probably going to be more like 2026 to 2028. That's a long, long time away. So I'm not really stressing it right now. Oh no, my computer's freezing up. But I think it's because I'm on a higher time frame. This is the ghost of Will haunting me, haunting us. Let's look at Solana. I think if you did get a dip on Solana, it probably comes down into here, just like Bitcoin. Which actually doesn't look that bad, but the lack of strength today, given that the rest of the altcoin market looks really strong, I would say is kind of a signal as well. Makes me think that Sol has probably already completed its bounce. I am kind of leaning more that we're coming down into here for Sol. But I think the strength has been, but to hold this level has obviously been good. And I would also mention the fact that this level will be ironclad support more than likely, because you've had so many funds kind of OTC buy Sol bags from FTX and from the FTX estate, and I think others as well in distress at around those prices. So I do think that's a level that will probably be defended pretty heavily. So I think that's a deep value level for Sol if you get a dip back into this consolidation. Otherwise, though, we're still within this range up here. And if we continue to hold, you would be expecting a rotation back to the range highs. Continue that range. But on a higher time frame for Sol, like it is going to come down to majors, but this looks really good. That looks really good. It kind of looks like something that's going to do maybe like that into a slow grind back up, and then back to the highs, and probably sending right off that low if I had to guess, and kind of drawn out weekly time frame fashion, if that's what it does. Let's see. Let's look at some more of our favorite altcoins. I always think the most interesting thing about Solana, and I will show some more derivatives data then, I guess. Look at Look at the high time frame OI for this thing. This is one of the wildest things about this cycle to me. Look at that. Look at how much more open interest came in this cycle versus the last one. Sam did all of these illegal things to pump this token, and we have put on 4 or 5 times as much open interest. I don't know what that means, right? Like I was talking about this yesterday with Jackus. I don't know what all the open interest data means because so many of these coins made all-time highs on open interest, but not price. But I am taking note of it, obviously, and it's clear from this data that people are openly interested in Solana. So I would say that about Solana. People are it's clearly the coin that the most people are interested in trading, even if it continues to dip lower. So it's probably going to have the best buyback if you do have that theoretical leg lower. I'm going to keep referring to it as that. Let's look at Mog. And you guys feel free to shoot me your suggestions as well. I've been keeping some of the ones that you've been recommending in mind. Yeah, I'm spoiling you guys with charts today. You're getting my full repertoire, however you say it. And I know there's like that French twang to it. Let's see what's going on with TIA. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Justin, I tried to invite up Prometheus. I invited him, but I think he's busy doing some work today. Oh, Prometheus is coming. Let's go. All right, let me invite Prometheus. And oh my God, there are a lot of you saying to invite Prometheus. All right, let's go. Let me shoot you that link, Prometheus. I assume you're watching. All right, guys, I sent it to you, or I sent it to him. But let's look at Mog. This is obviously kind of everybody's favorite meme coin at the moment. It's becoming a bit of a consensus, even. I am not sure quite what to think about it. Obviously, if majors hold here, you're probably literally just going to see it send straight through this resistance, though. I don't think that's a far-fetched statement to make at all, given that it is literally the strongest altcoin in the market. But if Bitcoin and ETH do not break above the Berlin Wall, then I think you're probably going to do something like what Bonk did, where you had the third tap at resistance that got rejected incredibly hard, and that would mean Mog is somewhere in here. And I think Popcat as well could be doing something more or less like that. And if that's the case, I'm looking for that trade back down into here. Just like Bonk. I think that Bonk is leading the meme coin market to some degree. So I think it's useful to use it as context for kind of what you think to expect. Whiff, though, I'll be honest, guys, I kind of think Whiff is pretty cooked. Like I'm not in the camp that I think that Whiff is never coming back. I don't think GCR would just buy Dog with Hat meme, the art, if he thought the coin wouldn't come back. But I do think that this can continue to come down. We talked about months ago, probably nobody remembers, but we talked about OI inefficiencies on Whiff being present, like down here, which could get filled. And I think if you majors another leg down, you probably get Whiff putting in a big candle. And I would say that's the bottom. That's probably the bottom. You just start chopping. I'm not as bearish on Whiff as Jackus, but I think you probably take some time to carve out a reaccumulation range before you move back up. It probably looks something like that. But that's what I'm thinking with Whiff. I really wanted to be optimistic on this coin, but man, it kind of sucked. What sucks about Whiff is that you had the Spear announcement around here, which got everybody excited. And obviously we had this pump that happened after that people could have sold into for sure, but they were expecting the Spear to be announced or that Whiff to get put on the Spear. And you're like, oh, that's my exit liquidity. That's how I want to exit the market. And unfortunately, Whiff never got put on the Spear. And ever since then, Spot, we can pull up the derivatives data, but Spot has literally been down only on Whiff ever since then. So somebody used the Whiff Spear as maybe the team just outright used it as a way to exit the market, which is definitely possible that they did that. I just like looking at derivatives data. Wouldn't shock me even slightly. Honestly, kind of smart though, I have to say, because you don't have to rug. Why rug for a small amount, relatively speaking, when you're up unrealized millions of dollars on a meme coin, when you can just use the event to generate liquidity? So yeah, that's what I would say about WIF. Popcat, we talked about that. This is either going to play out the WIF fractal or it's coming back down into here. Let's look at Bonk. Bonk looks pretty solid though. This is one of the markets that actually looks good. If it's going to do what Bitcoin just did out of this similar structure, it's at least going to pop up to like right here before any downside. Obviously, Bitcoin kind of retraced that move a little bit, so it's TBD if it sticks. But let's look at some VC scams. Of course, I haven't forgotten. I know you guys want me to look at TIA. And one of the things I was talking about from TIA that I kind of think can happen, if we dip from here, I think TIA is going to do something really annoying like this, and then bottom, and then just perpetually grind higher. If the bottom's already in, I kind of think you probably just big chop up to the VWAP up here, this yearly VWAP, and you consolidate and wait to prove that this was all a deviation right here. That's the bull case for TIA. It might not be bottoms, but the highest probability trade is going to be getting this reclaim at the end of the day. And it will not be something that occurs in a day. I know that everybody wants TIA to rip back up in probably a week. I don't think that's how it's going to play. It would be something that occurs over multiple weeks, multiple months, because there's just so much positioning to unwind here. It's literally a 6-month downtrend. But once you start flipping levels, it could look good quickly. It could look good fairly quickly. I do want to talk about this chart. Maybe I wait to do it, but this is actually kind of worrisome to me when you talk about reasons to be bearish. This is one of the first things that I'd point to. I know that everybody is going to point to like, oh, this is a deviation. I guess if you get a reclaim, yeah. But otherwise, this kind of looks to me like it's sloping down. Maybe not that deep, obviously, but like the momentum is clearly sloping down. So you need some market structure breaks, because otherwise the momentum is pretty strong to the downside, in my opinion, just like it is with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if you're using this as a barometer to lead Ethereum, I mean, this is basically where ETH is right now. Maybe ETH's going to give us one more down here. Something I would watch. Oop, got an alert. Nice, Pendle. Oh man, we're gonna have a few alerts probably go off on stream today, I have a feeling. Oh, nice, we got Prometheus. How you doing, brother? Welcome to my Yap Hour.
What's up, brother? Yeah,
guys,
no, I appreciate your cooking.
I'll let you introduce yourself. How about that?
Yeah, you guys probably saw me on that. We did that fight stream like, what was that, like 2 months ago? Sorry if you hear some background noise. I'm up on the patio on the 5th floor, so kind of is a little bit of an echo chamber up here. We're getting all the street noise and stuff. But yeah, no, Tommy, you're freaking cooking right now. It's kind of tough when you're basically talking to yourself, you know, just talking through your thought processes. But yeah, man, you're cooking.
I appreciate that, man. Are there any charts that you want to look at? Because I've just been kind of yapping through my watch list a little bit. I haven't talked about equities yet, just kind of Bitcoin, ETH, and relevant altcoins. But there are a lot of charts I think that are going to be worth playing. Obviously, in equities, there are a ton. You know, I haven't looked at miners. I know that's kind of more your specialty than mine. But obviously, some small cap charts that look good. Apple still looks strong. And the NASDAQ is just relentless. So if there's anything you want to look at, you know, the floor is yours too.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. I don't know. I'm currently on my work laptop, so I don't think its processor's good enough, honestly, to throw up some charts and do some TA for you. But if Tommy, you want to throw them up, if I just mentioned some tickers, that'd be awesome.
For sure.
But yeah, no, I mean, I would love to talk about equities. I think there's a lot going on uh, there, and I think too a lot of the, I could say, like hybrid market participants, the people that are both in equity and crypto land, have probably kind of forgotten about. Um, I think crypto's kind of stolen the limelight the past like four months, I would say, ever since the beginning of March, and um, and yeah, it's just like the headliners and kind of the attention has been obviously on crypto for quite a while now, and I know it's something that we like to talk about, and it caters towards our broader audience. But yeah, I think there's some interesting things going on right now, and I don't know if you've talked about Nvidia yet. That's always something to kind of keep your eye on in the markets, especially as it just relentlessly rips higher. And I mean, it's incredible. And everybody was, and including me, was kind of looking at a blow off top with Nvidia, right? We had the pretty large gap down in the middle of June, and then I mean, we've essentially, that was like 3 days where we had kind of like a nasty sell off. And then ever since then, we've just been like grinding higher, and it's just been like, it's just relentless, right? Bears have no opportunity in that trade one bit, right? I think you can't get in front of that trade, and on the bear side. And so there's no sellers, right? There's no sellers in Nvidia. And I was even talking to a coworker um, like 2-3 weeks ago, right? And I mean, the guy's like brilliant, but he was, saying, he's like, Nvidia is going to be like the Apple of the next like decade or two. And you're just going to see, he has kind of this thought process where, you see obviously this huge demand and also this huge margin in data centers and HPCs and all that. And with that being said, Nvidia is obviously the large supplier of the HPCs and these large data centers, and they essentially control the supply as well. So if they ever want to, they could tailor or curtail a lot of that supply on the back end, and just keep, demand is insatiable, and they just like, their margins are insane, right? Nvidia's margins are insane, and the data centers margins are insane, and it actually blows the miners margins out of the water by like 10 to 15 times, which is incredible, and that's something that I know a lot of the miners are trying to diversify into right now, is the HPC game, because essentially
The game's changing.
yeah, the game is changing, right? And you're paying for the like per hour, right? For the processor, right? Or for like these graphics cards, and you're paying significantly more on AI and AI hosting rather than like Bitcoin mining hosting. I think that's something that they're really looking into. Oh shit. What's going on, Will? What's going on? You crawled out of bed, rolled into the stream.
Still a little under the weather, but I took some Celsius to help out a little bit, so I'm here.
Oh, I got one right now.
Oh man.
Nice. I was slamming some tea earlier. I had some homemade tea from last night, some sun tea. I don't know if you guys make sun tea, but it is a favorite of mine. Just make a big pot of tea and put it in a glass and set it outside, and then you have it ready for the next 5 days. But also something I've been wanting to kind of get your take on, Tommy and Will, is the VIX, right? The VIX obviously was a big topic, especially of last year, and the compression of volatility and how the market is going to digest that. And if the VIX, if we could essentially front run, the VIX breaking out of this bottoming range, and whether or not that actually happens, or they continue to suppress volatility and have this playbook. Tommy, they've been having this playbook, and they haven't, stepped outside of it, right? It's been the same playbook for the past 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And they just vol sellers have just been winning. They've just been winning, and they haven't stopped.
The real make it trade all along was just selling volatility.
Yeah, dude. And it's like the most simple, easy trade of your life. But at the same time, it just, you can't lose. You just can't lose selling vol. It's crazy.
Not yet. Eventually you'll have something crazy, like maybe not quite that, but something, a 40, 50 point VIX handle just randomly, they can just happen from geopolitical risk, and people will get wiped out. But I feel like you're right. Bull sellers have won for so long that it's kind of difficult to anticipate exactly where that's going to end. But damn, if
you say anything outside of it's not going to continue forever right now, I'm not hopping here. But go ahead,
if you break these lows, I don't see why you don't grind down to here next. Like the 2017 lows, which were obviously the prices that we hit before 2008 and before Volmageddon. So maybe the market does kind of need Vol to continue to get incinerated, which has obviously been good for large cap tech equities, and I think it will be good for small caps. We just haven't quite seen it manifest just yet.
What did we talk about with VIX, Tommy, in 2023, when everybody was looking for the bounce, and I was like, this is going to go to 8. It's going to go all the way back down to 897. Everybody's going to be like, what the F happened? There's no way. It's got to catch a bounce somewhere. And all it's been is down only. That's it. I would say always look at these charts, especially when you're in like a secular change, which is basically what it is, right? It's a secular change. You should always look for the overall bottom, right? Which is not the low time frame bottom; it's the high time frame bottom. If you could let me see the chart for like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah,
I'll show kind of like what I'm talking about. I've had this chart out for a long time, guys. I had this chart out for a long time. The high time frame bottom is when your directionality changes. Then you get the high time frame bottom, and we could towards that here from basically 1990 all the way into 95, 96, right? And then we cooked all the way back up. We came all the way back down in like 06, 07. Now these 06. Now you might be like, why 07? Why not 08? Was the vol bottom? Because 07 is when the actual market started to get absolutely obliterated, right? This was your telling of market obliteration before market obliteration. Then you went into spike, right? 08, 09. And then your markets got wrecked. So once you bottom on vol, you should start looking for the next couple of years, something to implode. And this is why I've been telling bears, like, hey, you're wrong on timing, because VIX was basically telling you the whole time, directionality has changed, so you should just play the market. Don't be a weenie. Don't pick up the Snickers. Be that person that's going to come in and play the market. Market downside, again, another catastrophic event. 2018, right? And then what do you get? You get 2020, boom, right? The market's telling you it's screwed. And then 2021, 2022, 23, 24, 20, and now you're playing the downside. So you have all this time until you hit this bottom row, till you hit this bottom positioning, right in here, right in here, right in here, before you can start looking for implosion of the market. Vol just has to be squeezed so freaking tight that's when you know the market's absolutely screwed at some point. Now, granted, somewheres in this uptrend is a big market, right? This is why I like when people say we're going to see that big market now, even with ETFs. I don't think so, because I think vol has to bottom first, and then you're going to get this strong uptrend. And these upswings markets are the markets that actually end up being massive. And then once you get the massive upswing market, the market rebalances, right? We're still in the rebalancing phase for VIX, in my perspective. But it's only 4 points in history that I can point out that this, or 3, and what will be 4, I think, in history with VIX that this has kind of occurred. So it's like a decade cycle, more or less. It's every decade.
Yeah,
but that's the interesting part I've seen with VIX. I hope you guys are on here talking about Bitcoin with the way equities look. That's
I mean, we were talking about crypto,
started.
but obviously equities are an absolute tank right now, man. I mean, it's like how can you even, what can you even say about equities at this point? Like,
my God, man,
I should have just been trading equities. That's what I should have been. That's what I should say.
my calls. Now, granted, I think
real quick, Will, I just want to kind of touch on your VIX chart there, and I mean, you can essentially see on a macro time frame, on the high time frame, basically a huge megaphone pattern playing out, and you could kind of derive from that essentially they're suppressing systemic issues within the broader markets until they literally can't, and then each and every time it plays out, or it essentially implodes on a larger and larger and larger scale, right? I think that just goes to show, I think the VIX is honestly a perfect picture of how manipulated the markets are. And like viewing this, you keep your eyes on it, right? They're just going to keep suppressing and suppressing and suppressing it until they literally can't. And the systemic issue becomes so large that is our generational reset, right? Because ultimately 2019 should have been a reset, in not just liquidity, but in overall markets, but the current political regime essentially created this, this monster to where it's a transfer of wealth, but it's not a transfer of wealth into new generation. It's a transfer of wealth continued into the older generation, right? So I think it's something that's kind of interesting that you can derive from that VIX chart right there.
Yeah, plus this has much more to do with the stock market, in my opinion, than it does crypto, even though there is a tie between the two. And so I think this is why the stock market is doing so much better than crypto right now. Like, I mean, immensely better. Like, I don't across the board. Like, unless you're some team behind the shitcoin that has a certain percentage of supply, you're not doing as well as the stock market right now. More than likely, you're more than likely outpaced by the stock market, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? It's really kind of crazy to think about, but it's just the reality of things. I don't care what nobody's like. I've watched this, and I've been some of the best picks out there. I've watched some of the best picks out there, and they're all underperforming the stock market right now. Every one of them.
But go and chart every time Bitcoin is decoupled from the SPY in the way it has currently. It has marked the bottom every single time, and that catch-up trade is violent and vicious, and that is what we experienced last year when we went from 30K straight up to 72K, right? And then you get your outsized returns, where that's where you really have to keep your eye out. And this entire bull run has been, can you master your rotation, right? Can you master your rotation from one narrative to the other? Or were you able to pick the winners early and position yourself in a way where you can ride those? And if you haven't, then you've had to essentially snipe liquidity rotations that have been extremely quick, and gone from one sector and one narrative to the next, right? Outside of, NVIDIA, like I said, if you didn't position early enough, then you got left on the dock, and the cruise ship is, in the Caribbeans now, and you're sitting in like Georgia, And so it's like, it's, you know, you're just left behind. So like I said, it's, you kind of really had to be on top of those liquidity rotations. But I truly do believe, you know, and people like to think that, you know, cryptos can oftentimes front run, you know, greater, you know, the greater, you know, or the market in general. And I don't believe that one bit. I think that that crypto and Bitcoin itself, you know, in times of uncertainty, you know, takes a hit, just as we've seen these past, you know, since essentially April, right? But then once you find stability within these geopolitical issues, within, you know, the liquidity cycle, within, you know, the macro environment, you find stability, it's game on, you know. And that's where your crypto markets are, you know, that's where you need to be when we enter those times. So it's something you really watch out for.
Yeah, I'd say that these two right here are the exact dates. This was like dated Bitcoin's top in 17, and this is honestly where I think we are. We're somewhere in here. We're not down here, because really this bottoming right here marked the bottom, or marked the top of crypto, right? So this is like your bottom right here. This marked crypto. Just doesn't have as much history as the VIX, so it's a little more difficult because the VIX has so much history behind it. But I will say this: it's for 3 cycles, it played the downtrend, right? Now we're playing this uptrend. The upswing is where your money is made. This is where the big markets come. This is like your 2021, right? Your 2021 blow on top. The thing that I noticed, if we're going to talk the VIX, is this right here. Is even though we had this uptrend, we're actually starting to catch a downtrend. So, you know, do I follow the pattern, or do I adjust it? Again, I'm just a pattern watcher, so I pay attention to patterns, and I go with whatever the market's telling me. And so, sentiment-wise, if we get another spike, I would anticipate it to be, you know, something like this over time. But this is going to happen from down here, which means we got a whole nother cycle essentially before we're going to see this big spike over here. And then we'll come back down, and then do we catch it lower again, right? And then the market becomes a compression pattern, right? It goes from an expansion pattern to a compression pattern, which a compression pattern then turns into a bigger expansion pattern later, right? These markets they're never ending, essentially. And so looking at this and the way this is set up to me to be, you know, probably your gen wealth was over here, right? Your gen wealth was over here. And now we're moving into accumulation into gen wealth again later, right? And I think that a lot of people won't be willing to accept that. They want money now. And this is just people trying to play the slot machine in crypto a lot of the time. You're getting a shifting of hands with a lot of this when it comes to VIX. So it's going to be pretty interesting to watch this play out. But I still think there's a lot of money to be made. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you could probably get that one pick that can get you gen wealth, or those 2 or 3 picks that can get you gen wealth. And a lot of people are just shooting for that one play. But those people that are shooting for that one play are going to end up playing themselves, because they're going to put it right back into the market looking for that next play. They're going to lose.
That's exactly that's exactly why so many people lose money in crypto, Will, is because they hit a big play, they make a ton of multiples on a trade, and then they put it back into the market, forgetting that these are assets that can go down 70 to 80% in a week. Like, it's nothing. I mean, it happened. This is why people, in my opinion, always give gains back, is because they put stuff back into the market and they put it into riskier and riskier things to continue chasing returns, because the best plays have already kind of played out.
Yeah, they hit that one banger. Don't realize that they hit their gen wealth banger, and they want to take it, and they're like, all right, I did it over here. I can repeat the process over here. It doesn't work like that. You're playing high risk, right? I mean, look at Lucid. I bet on Rivian and I bet on Lucid since 2022. Which one outperformed which? Rivian destroyed Lucid altogether, right? And if I would have just went all in on Rivian when it came to EVs, I would have cooked. I would have freaking cooked. But Instead, I wanted to split my risk, and Lucid was the higher risk play. It was the much higher risk play, and it didn't do too well up until now, right? I had to wait 2 years for this to play out because I split my risk rather than going with the one I knew that was safer, but my multiples were less. And this is where a lot of people mess up.
We've all made that mistake before, Will.
Yeah,
going for multiples and getting burned.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, it's paid off now, but like it didn't pay off because I knew the better play was Rivian. I knew it. I absolutely knew it. But I still wanted to split my multiples because I wanted to split my winnings and I wanted to make a lot more money. Again, greed, right? But with stocks, I don't have to worry about that money going to zero, right? Crypto, that may never come back. That's why you can't risk it once you make gen wealth.
Yeah, with what you're in, Will, I mean,
look at Rivian, man. Like, absolutely, just this is what I was talking. Like, I mean, we had the Chad meeting. Remember, people were like, "Oh, should I sell my Rivian now?" I was like, "No." I was like, "He's going higher." I'm like, "We're going higher." I'm like, "Hold your positions. Hold the line. Hold the line." And it's paying off to hold the line, right? No point in selling here. We're selling this a lot higher. But you get Rivian calls of it, and really, I mean, we've kind of broken through support here. So it's like, if this thing really wants to go, by the time those calls hit, we could be up here, we could be up here. And I tell you, that's gonna pay everybody really well, really well. Lucid, same thing. I was like, we're gonna break those resistance. We're going to probably tag this, pull back a little bit, and we're going to swing. And these are January calls, so I got plenty of time on them. I'll probably end up cutting them before September because I think they'll hit before September. And then come back into them later.
25 or 26s?
For which one, Rivian or sorry, Rivian?
On your Jans. Are they January 26 or 25?
So January is Lucid. I'm going for 455. That's what I was going for on this one. But I'm going to hit way higher.
I can see your face staring at me, but I can hear your voice.
I want to screenshot that and just put it on. That's my profile.
Yeah, I'm frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna screenshot it. It's
how do
funny.
I need to drop out to?
Yeah, you'll probably have to drop and come back.
Okay.
But I'm expecting a swing at minimum to 5, right? And I can tell you, I got these for pennies. Nobody thinks Lucid's turning around. Nobody. Like,
I'll still believe it when I see it for Lucid. We saw it with Rivian. Lucid's still one of those where like
the call size is bad. Yeah, people are waiting for a trend switch is what they're looking for on this one, and I think it'll play. I think it'll play. It's tested too many times up here. It's tested way too many times up here, and so I think it's going to break through. It's kind of like how Bitcoin kept testing the support, and eventually broke. So it is what it is. That's how support and resistance works. You keep knocking on the door. Eventually, the door is going to fall over. Right? You're going to get back in. So I think they've been knocking at the door plenty of times here on Lucid. I'm making a bag on this one. And then we talked about GME, right? And I said how it's going to swing, and it's already starting its swing here, in my opinion. I don't think this is going to roll. I do not think, because I think your support is here, and you're above that, right? So if you're above support and you're sitting here and you're swinging high, now some people might be like, oh, no, it's up here. Okay, that's fine. If that's your belief, I think it's right in here and really clearly right in here, right? You got all these tests in here. You got solid support right there, right? That's really solid support. And then you got pretty much resistance playing out right here to a T. And so I think you're going to get a big upswing on a pennant on GameStop. And I don't know what's going to make it occur. Maybe Rowan Kitty says something. Maybe the SEC does something. Maybe the government does something. Something's going to make this occur, and you're going to get a big jump, and you're going to be able to make more than what you made over here. So the losses I made over here, I think, are going to be able to make me a lot more money over here. Call side positions for the audience, just for your guys' sake. These will really make you some money if you get in the right place and you get in the right swings, man. I mean, I'm up a ton on the Rivian calls because I got in like really low when belief just wasn't there on Rivian, and that was like right down in here. But we talked about the trend flip, which was essentially once price came up here and then came back above here. I mean, you guys want to see what this is textbook wise? I'll show you what this is textbook wise because I think not enough people understand how this works. But I mean, textbook wise, this is an inverted head and shoulders in my perspective, right? And then we basically bottomed out there and kind of ran that way. A little bit dirty, but it's definitely an inverted head and shoulders from my perspective. And so I was expecting a breakout on the inverted head and shoulders, and we ended up getting that immensely, right? We got the massive breakout right here. Once we broke back into range lows, again, range lows, then we got the big push, shoved us all the way up, cool down, right? These are all your sellers getting out, thinking that it's over, and then you get the push right back up again. Stocks have been working like clockwork to the upside, and I think a lot of people have missed an opportunity over here. Just continuing to dabble in crypto 24/7, right? I've been splitting my attention in between both, and I think that it's worked out fairly well. Yeah, and I saw somebody in the comments say that Tommy said that Sol's going to go below $100. Sorry, Tommy, I don't think that's going to happen. Again, I think this is a W formation low, and that's a friendly gesture just for the audience, by the way. I respect Tommy's opinion for sure. I think it's something like that, and I think it's forming out still, right? You're getting on a smaller time. This is your larger time frame. On a smaller time frame, I think you're getting kind of like this pennant formation, which is starting to form now. And for me, I think that people should not sleep on a lot of these patterns that are kind of playing out. But I think that looking at this, it's going to be something like this, like a wild swing, right? It's still going to be a W on the higher time frame, even though it's got all this price action movement, because no W is perfect typically. But I think it's going to be a wild swing out of this and just kind of build up and then just break out. To me, I think that this is the more likely outcome versus the down break. And so it makes me question the 40K Bitcoin with a lot of people. A lot of people discuss the 40K Bitcoin, but I'm like, if I'm expecting this for Solana, I can't expect 40K Bitcoin. I can't. Like it's practically impossible. But again, I'm not going to be the guy to sit here and like, oh yeah, we're going up again, guys. I'm not going to be, the crazy person like I normally am.
Sol does look good on a higher time frame. I don't want to,
Sol looks great.
I think that it will come down to double digits if majors continue to slide. I would say the thing that I am also taking note of with Solana is that altcoins look incredibly strong today, but Solana does not. And that's usually not the relationship that we see between those two before the market trends higher. So I would say that, but I think the high time frame on Sol still looks like it's in a range. It's been in a range for, probably 3 or 4 months now, just like Bitcoin and ETH. ETH is Bitcoin kind of outside the range right now, but it's the same context more or less as Bitcoin and ETH, where you hold the range lows, or you are going to take that stab deeper. And I would also say Solana's structure, you wouldn't expect an altcoin to have more efficient looking market structure, but it does. I mean, would you agree with me on that, Will? The Solana market structure has more support on the way down than Bitcoin and ETH do.
100%, more than both. Like, believe me, I at one point in my life was a Solana hater, but I'm not ignorant to structure whatsoever. And I think Sol has a strong structure in the entire ecosystem. And so I'm fully behind strong structures, fully behind. And this is not a weak structure whatsoever. It was such a depressed asset. And here's the thing: I'm a master at depressed assets, but I ignored this one at $8. I was like, we're going to 5-6. I was like, we're going to 5-6. And I waited for it, and then we hit 20, and I was like, okay, it's not going to 5-6. We'll be lucky to see 10 again if we see it. Once you get that 4x, you come to a realization you're wrong, right? You come to that realization you're wrong, and you have to accept that. I'm more than willing to flip on any bias if the market tells me to do so, but I need the market to tell me to do so. And so I started bidding once I started seeing the strength there, But to catch up on my Solana, because I was actually behind, but I didn't shoot blanks in the dark like, Solana's going to be the future, and had no clue like a lot of these guys did, and then try to pretend like they're some kind of Solana expert. What I did to catch up on them was I played meme coins, right? And I caught up on my Solana missing positions, the ones that I should have had if I would have bid at the lows. And so I did catch Bitcoin, but I didn't catch Solana. And I caught up on Solana by playing memes. But this is my thoughts on Solana. And this is why I always tell people, like, there's always a catch-up play, right? If you're ever wrong, play the catch-up play. That's how you're going to make up on the positioning. A lot of people want to chase. A lot of people want to sit there and cope. You don't have to cope. You don't have to chase. Play the catch-up play. That's all it is. Like when people come in with strategies, you got to have a strategy for a catch-up play, and you got to have a strategy for, this is where I start dialing in, right? I should have started dialing in. I was close to the target price. Solana was so depressed, I should have started dialing in at those lows, but didn't end up doing it. And I'm more than willing to come up here and sit on stage. Like, I don't even care. Like, it doesn't bother me one bit to be wrong, because I know I can catch up on a lot of these plays. This is why I like when people are like, oh, you didn't catch the bottom, ha, ha, ha. It's like, I don't need to. I'll still catch up to you and pass you. It's just a matter of me paying attention, right? But
like Lightning McQueen, man, your speed.
I'm quick.
I guess Fire Dancer is releasing today. I didn't realize that. With that, I mean, I know it's not going to have any impact on Solana's price, but what does that actually do for the network? I'm curious as a user.
So it's a code change, is that? So it's just code change. It doesn't actually improve the network in the way people think that it's going to make the network faster. It doesn't do that. So it's a code change that allows them to fix the errors that they currently have as far as congestion and everything else. Like, you can go read it. It's right there on the GitHub. You can also read on their site where they describe what it is. It's a code change. I think whatever code they were using, or whatever base layer code that they were using for their L1, wasn't able to be adjusted too well. And this is why they were having congestion issues and all these other things. And so I think this code change will allow them to go in and kind of rewrite areas that they need to, if that makes sense. It'll be essentially like Ethereum, where they can just, every time they put out a code, it's a new chain, essentially, right? A new code, but it'll still be the same chain. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's how Ethereum does it. Ethereum writes new code every time they do an update. They don't work out the same one. Yeah.
Well, Vitalik definitely earned those billions.
That's literal insanity. That is literal insanity. But no, I mean, I think when we were discussing on the space yesterday, Wabi had a really interesting point back in, I think it was, 2018. I think 2018, Ethereum came down to like $90 after, or no, I need to look at the charts. But Wabi was essentially discussing with Ethereum how during the previous cycles, it essentially had lost, like, people were like, had essentially given up on it, right? As like a narrative, as like a play. And they'd written it off as just this, platform, or, this foundation to essentially be just to raise capital, right? Yeah, it was like 2018. Ethereum came down to $90, right? And everybody had given up on, the play, and there was all these chains. He was discussing about there being all these chains that were essentially, the ETH killers and yada yada, and people, just only launched on it to essentially raise capital and use it as like this to raise funds. But we, now, looking back in hindsight, we understand really how it fits into the greater context and the greater narrative of the markets. And it's a lot bigger now than what a lot of people could have foreseen back then. And I think you're going to see something similar to with what Solana was, right? Solana, and comparing Ethereum at, $90 to Solana at around sub 20. And, people were essentially writing off Solana previously as, just this VC-backed, FTX scam, and it's only good, it was only good because you had Sam Bankman-Fried, running it up and backing it. but ultimately Solana has evolved into something, much more than just, the typical VC scam. And it's kind of evolved into this like ultra degen, ultra high risk, forgive what I'm saying, but like Jeet Fest, and that's currently what it is now. But as it moves forward, there is a lot of potential for the chain, and really the regulatory bodies really like Solana because it is this hyper centralized, L1 essentially. And it gives them the ability, if they can step in and if they can regulate it in some way, they can use it as this L1 to, I think they partnered with like MasterCard or Visa, and it becomes this chain where you see more of a, I hate to say this, but a real world use case for it, and you see it become more adopted. And, now a lot of people don't really want to accept that narrative because, it goes against the whole decentralized, cult community, that we have here in crypto, where they're like, oh, if it's centralized and it's not decentralized, then it doesn't fit, within the greater crypto markets, and nobody would ever accept it. But I think as we move forward, you're actually going to get farther and farther away from that, because we, in a sense, do want regulation. And it also brings legitimacy to the space, right? Where I don't know if moving forward, I think that this cycle could potentially be the last cycle where you see, like the meme coin narrative, right? Where you see, because last cycle was the real world asset narrative, where you saw, oh, what use could this provide to the markets, right? What use could this provide to, any companies? And now it's more like, well, we're getting scammed out of our bags because those are all backed by VCs and they're not fair launches and they're dumping yield on our heads and they're using us as exit liquidity. So we're going to, run towards the memes, which are fair launch and yada, yada. But potentially moving forward, it could be something along the lines of, what cryptos have the regulatory bodies accepted, and how do they actually fit into the real world, not just like a hypothetical, but what are they actually doing to support, current companies and current structures and infrastructure that are in place, to where they actually are providing an actual use case, not just some whack partnership where it's just some marketing ploy. That's just, hypothetical moving forward. But like I said, nobody really knows where Solana is going and where, in my opinion, is going to end up. I think it's following in the footsteps of Ethereum, and I think it's something to watch out for. But something too, I was wanting to touch on this market check, which I think is some serious alpha. If you could pull it up, Tommy, is charting Caspa next to Dash.
Yeah,
I think that there is an insane amount of alpha in what Dash did in 2017 and what Caspa is currently doing now. And I think sorry if you hear, there's tornado sirens going off. It's the first Wednesday of the month, so that's what you get here in Tornado Alley. But yeah, so let me know if it's too obnoxious too. It's probably going to be really freaking loud. But if you just want to chart it, Tommy, let me get your thoughts, and I'll wait for these sirens to die out before I kind of go on like a rant potentially. You might have to. Is that Dash in 2017? Okay, so you might have to pull up the gate chart, or
let's get that Binance dollar chart. That's the one. Oh, damn. Maybe not.
No, you're going to have to get, yeah, I think it's Gate, the one that I was
Rare
using.
that Binance USD does not have the full chart history. If you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this about Solana. I mean, it will become whatever it will become, but I would say it has the best product market fit of any layer one in crypto. I've seen somebody say that term before me. I'm not the one to coin it, but I think it's very applicable for.
Pull up the Kraken chart.
I think it's very applicable for Sol.
Yeah, and I have the alpha here whenever you're ready, Tommy, on the Solana coding, because some people said we was wrong.
I see what you're saying, Prometheus. Where are you saying it is?
So I posted something on my Twitter, but I think so if you just pull up Caspa side by side, are you able to do that, like fit it in the pane? So
My computer will not like that, but
okay. We need to get you a new computer, brother. But
this is a new computer. That's the thing, man. It's like
that's Apple product, Will. Am I right? That's an Apple product.
Yeah,
yes,
I know. When you're running exchange like 2 exchanges on your computer at once and also TradingView all the time, your computer hates you pretty quickly.
Yeah, you got Hyperliquid in the background, and you got Bitfinex, and you got literally 10 exchanges pulled up with 15 accounts, all with different positions, and yeah, you're a maniac.
You guys want to see this? Look at mine, Tommy. You don't have to pull it up, but just look at my screen. Look at the tabs. Those are running 24/7. 24/7.
My computer was exceptional for like 6 months. Now it's product market fit was termed by Y Combinator. Oh, I know what product market fit is.
Brother,
I know what it is. I got it from Bob Laxative, actually.
We got to talk about the elephant in the room. I'm sorry to cut everybody off.
Here, real quick, Will. Before you go, we got the chart pulled up. So yeah, I mean, on this Dash chart, and why I compare it to Caspa, and I mean, if you guys put them side by side, or if you look at the thread I posted on Twitter, it is immaculate, right? It's impeccable with how similar these charts look. So on Tommy's chart, right, you can see 1 higher high, 2 higher high, 3 higher high, and then the blow off expansionary phase up, right? And where I currently think we're at is we are just before setting that 3rd higher high. So, and it's, I don't know. I think we're not quite there yet, but I think we are in the process of breaking out of that accumulation phase and going and setting the new higher high. And 2, why I think the 2 charts are extremely similar is how the role that they play with the miners. So if anybody remembers back in like 2017, Dash had everybody was like jumping on the Dash mining train, right? Because there was insane margins, right? And as quite a few of you know now, Marathon Mara, a publicly traded miner, just came out, I think 2 weeks ago, and they said that they are essentially creating a growth plan to start mining Caspa because of the huge growth margins. And so this brings a lot of attention to the Caspa mining ecosystem per se, and legitimizes it with a publicly traded company actually having it on their balance sheet and opening up growth plans to actually continue mining it. And so back in 2017, you saw something similar with Dash, where everybody was jumping on the L1 proof of work narrative, right? And Bitmain came out with a miner that supported the X11 algorithm, which is what you use to mine Dash. And it had huge margins, and everybody was mining Dash, right? And from a sentiment perspective, this brought a huge amount of attention to Dash, and ultimately made it go like freaking parabolic. And I think Dash, actually did better than Ethereum last cycle from the nominal perspective. I think it hit like 20 or 1700 and did extremely well. But the downfall with Dash was that there was no incentive and there was no community to actually behind it to actually hold and incentivize them to actually hold the tokens. So when you saw all these Bitmain ASIC miners come online, you saw a huge amount of supply dumped onto the market. But what's interesting with Dash and Caspa, both of their supplies are largely mined out fairly early on into the actual life of the token itself. And though the difference between them, which I am very curious to see what happens, is Caspa's community. A lot of the miners that mine Caspa, they don't sell it onto the markets, right? So you see these miners that mine, and have huge amount of the supply, but they don't dump it onto the market, right? And the reason why that is because the community itself is extremely cultish, and they are, they believe in the project itself, yada yada, the whole history behind it, and it taking so long to actually come to fruition. But like I said, is with Mara essentially legitimizing it with a publicly traded miner. Yeah, and it's so freaking clean with how those two line up. And then if you
who was bullish on Amara Prometheus?
You were bullish on Mara, but like I said, I have issues though with Mara mining Caspa. I think it's bullish in the short term for Caspa, and the fact that from a
Price
sentiment
action
perspective,
wise,
price action wise, yeah, short term it's going to be insanely bullish, right? But Mara is known to stack all the BTC they mine and increase their hodl. But when it comes down to it in the next bear market, or with their wanting to, diversify their mining portfolio and go from a more asset light program where they just pay for hosting to actually owning the assets themselves, what are they going to want to offload to, have cash
Caspa.
at hand? That's going to be Caspa, right? And Mara, guess what? What are they planning on doing? They're planning on having 20% of the Caspa hash rate. 20% of the hash rate. You cannot tell me that is bullish. The long term, you cannot tell me that is bullish.
Well, it can be bullish on the stock.
In the short, it could be bullish on the stock, but the short term for Caspa price itself, for a single entity to hold 20% of the hash rate, that is like long term, that is insanity. That is literal insanity. And so, though, I do think what could happen is, Bitmain moving forward could curtail or could dump more and more machines onto the market, which would dilute Mara's hash rate percentage, or, they could do a few things. But yeah, that's just a comparison that I was, and the charts are extremely clean with how they trade. And it's something that I've just been looking at. But, we only have a few minutes. I want to make sure Will cooks with the elephant in the room. And yeah, that was just a little bit of alpha for you guys that I gave to the Discord.
One more thing to add to that too. Caspa miners seem to be not as profitable as most people think due to costs, right? Due to cost. I was looking at the average cost of an AMP miner for Caspa. It's sitting at like $47,000 something. And
if you got in early, it was insane.
Yeah,
if you're late to the party, and there's the same with Dash. If you were early to the party, it was great. But after 9 months, Dash went from $300 a day in gross profit to like $3 within 9 months. And it's the same with Caspa.
Well, I'm talking about the miner itself. The miner is way overpriced. I don't know what these people are smoking
because of the margin
up for that price, but it's the thing is like that's got to come down. That's got to come down. I wouldn't even be interested in mining Caspa until that price came down for AMP miners. But the elephant in the room, and we talked about this, Tommy, if you could flip to my screen real quick, and you know what it is.
For sure. Right? I just got to run here in probably like 5 to 10 minutes, Will. So
you're going to have to cancel your plans because
I cannot. I got to go.
His cat's got to eat. His cat's got to eat.
Look, the cat can starve for a few. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, we got to feed the cat. So look at that. Look at the chart. Look at the chart. Did we hit target? Did we hit target? And I told you guys down here, this might be a good place to be buying MOG, guys. Might be good. I said this last week. I said this might be a good place to be buying MOG. And look at this freaking swing. Look at this. I literally laid out the pattern for the audience. Laid out the pattern for all of you. And what do? You either buy or you spit in my face and watch. All right? It's one of the two. I'm okay with both results. The one leaves you coping, the other one leaves you a bag of money. So overall,
dude, I fumbled that bag so hard, Will. I fumbled that bag so hard. I bought it at like 25 mil market cap or something, and I think I like 2.5x my position, and I was like, oh yeah, sick. Like I'm gonna rotate this into some other plays, some modularity plays, which we won't mention, and
I told you, hey, we had this discussion on Mog. I was like, don't sell Mog for modularity, bro. I was like, don't sell Mog for modularity.
Modularity.
You got mogged. That's what happened.
Even though I was bearish, I'm still pretty bearish on the market here locally speaking. I'm still holding my Mog, and I'm glad I did, because this is a perfect example of on-chain altcoins shrugging off any uncertainty in majors and continuing their trend. Mog is the coin with the strongest underlying bid in the market. I mean, I don't really think there's a close second at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this right here,
bro. What are you talking about? Whiff looks great.
I'll be quick on this, Tommy. Like we literally discussed this pattern, right? And I think that just like how you were talking about the third leg and so on and so forth, you got 1, you got 2, you got 3. I think there's going to be a big swing coming for Mog. I think there's a big swing coming because this has been suppressed price action building to break out, in my perspective. Building to break out. Yeah, and a lot of people miss that. They're missing it here. And you know the funny part? They missed it here when I was telling them to buy. They missed it here. Same thing. Same exact thing. Suppression of asset to push.
Don't zoom in so far there. You make me feel bad about myself.
I was telling people, look, when the modularity discussion came in, I said, shove Mog. Shove modularity. Like, shove Mog.
Dude, I had a fat bag of Mog, and I mean, I love the gym, and most people don't know where the term Mog actually comes from. And the fitness influencer it actually comes from. And I watched that fitness influencer probably a decade ago. And so I understood the narrative and I understood the community behind it. And yeah, I fucked up.
Like we had like we almost had a split in the Discord for a little bit on some of these narratives. And then like once people saw Mog, everybody, then they're like, all right, this is the holy grail of all coins. Right here.
Mog is mogging everybody.
Mog is mogging everybody. We get into there. I do have lots more alpha.
It really
is. We'll discuss it tomorrow if you want.
Yeah, we'll cook tomorrow for you guys as well. Well, I don't know if you saw the first half hour of the show. I was just yapping the whole time I was cooking. But we hope that you guys enjoyed the show. I actually didn't even check the like button. I have no idea how we did today. We got 200 likes. Not bad. I didn't ask you guys a single time. So I will take that. 7 days out of the week. But since we're live 5 days out of the week, I'm going to say 5 days of the week. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed the show. We are getting Max back, I think, later this week. I think Tucker back next week. And we should have Jackus back tomorrow as well, but don't quote me on that. Either way, looking forward to the rest of the week for both shows and the market. But some housekeeping notes, a reminder that BB has officially launched our new hedge fund, BB Wealth Management, as it is appropriately named. And we structure the way that we obviously allocate and invest through that fund in a way that takes into account crypto's historic propensity for asymmetric upside, as well as the investment risks posed in any market. So becoming an LP or becoming an accredited investor is something that interests you. Make sure to check out the description below. We'll reach out to you via email, get back to you, and hopefully answer any and all of your questions as soon as possible. Not to forget the BB Academy, guys. As I say, the value proposition of the BB Academy is that we have such a diverse team of traders who have been crushing this market. You can get alpha from every single one of us. How we approach the markets, how we trade the markets, our strategies for trading the markets. It is an invaluable tool, in my opinion. So if you want to take your trading to the next level, if you want to refine your educational base or a specific skill, BB Academy is perfect for you. We have more information linked in the description of this video as well. Of course, Market Check will return for another episode tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking forward to it, of course. And Market Talk will also be live on Twitter later today. Make sure to tune in for that with Wabi. And as I say with Market Talk, the timing can always vary. So make sure to stay following and subscribe to our Twitter so you can be notified, not just when we go live, but also when we schedule those spaces. But thanks again, guys. We hope that you enjoyed the show. I definitely enjoyed it. I'm glad we got Prometheus on as well. Hopefully we can have him back. But yeah, no, thanks again, guys. I'm going to run the outro now, and we'll be back tomorrow.